Hello, welcome back to the latest episode of You Are My Boro with myself, Dom Shaw, and we've got a cup game to talk about. Not Boro's win at Exeter City on Tuesday night. We'll obviously talk about that in great depth when we do our second episode of the pod with Scott later this week. We'll look back on that win, by which point we'll know who Boro have been drawn against in the quarterfinals, and we'll obviously look ahead to the game against Plymouth on Saturday. But we've got a special guest in now, and we're going to be looking ahead to a big FA Cup tie for Whitby Town, for which Jonathan Franks, former Boro striker and Hartlepool striker and various other club striker, is now assistant manager. Thanks for joining us, John. Much appreciated.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Away to Bristol Rovers on Saturday then. That's some draw, isn't it?
Yeah, very good draw. Possibly one of the best we could have hoped for, really. Obviously, with it going just up to League One. So they're a big club in that league. Get plenty of fans. So I'm sure the hierarchy at Whitby were pleased with the draw.
For you then, I mean, you're assistant gaffer there now. But you're kind of no age, really. How old are you? 33? 30?
33, mate, yeah.
Yeah. So how did it come about then? And we're going to have a look back on your Boro career and a good chat about that. How did it come about that you kind of went into coaching and management so early?
Well, I took the retirement because of I'd been abroad, Iceland, and I come back and there was nothing really there that was good enough financially, really, for me to support a family. So I took the decision to go, instead of going back abroad, took the decision to retire and just go play for Stockton Town, because I know they were on the ascendancy, really, and they've got ambition. And it was my hometown club, and I got a job with their main sponsors. So kind of like they retired me, basically, Map Group. But then obviously my time at Stockton was really good, enjoyed it. But then Whitby gave me the call to if I wanted to do a player coach role. So, and I always wanted to do the coaching. I've been ready to do the coaching for the last few years of my career, to be honest, because as everyone knows, I had a bad back. I done my back when I was 17. So kind of, and I had an operation at 20. So it kind of managed that for a good 10, 12 years of my career. And it was difficult in the end. And I think when you're not enjoying it, I think it's time to like say, right, that's enough. And that's what I did. So I just enjoyed my football at Stockton. And obviously the Whitby thing, just going into the coaching, was exactly what I wanted to do. And I spoke to the chairman at Stockton Town, and they've got plenty of coaches at Stockton, and Whitby needed one. And they've asked me to go over. So that's what I did, play a coach. And I did that for a little bit, and then the manager left. So, because they were joint managers, Nathan and Bully. Bully left, Nathan stepped up, and then he just asked me to be his assistant, and it was a no-brainer, really. So I'm still down as playing, and I'll play in emergencies, but in 1 year we haven't had one emergency, so I haven't had to play.
Maybe they're trying to tell you something there. When you said there about retirement early, like for a lot of players, they'd find that incredibly hard to deal with, having to retire at whatever age, 30, 31. Mentally, were you equipped for that? You talked there about your injuries and how you were maybe ready. Did you feel ready for that? And because of that, was it any easier or not?
Initially, I thought, yeah, I'm ready. Physically, I was ready because I was only training a couple of times a week instead of training every day. I mean, I was naturally fit. It's just the injuries and stuff. I thought I was ready, and at first I really enjoyed it the first couple of months, but then after 6 months, 7 months, it hits you hard. It really does. Like you're in the real world again. Like I know football's a job and stuff, but you're then going from just playing football and you're sole focus on your football, and then you've got a real job, and then you've got to get motivated for your football separately, which is good. It was a little bit of a release. But it does hit you hard at some point, and you've got to get through it. And I did struggle, to be honest. There was a point in my life where I thought, "Oof, this is hard." But like I say, that kind of goes back to I was probably ready to stop playing altogether. And then since the Whitby thing's come, it's kind of like I've had a new leash of life, mate. Like the coaching, I love it, absolutely love it. Me, Nathan, and Matty we'll go all over, watch games. We're always on the chat, like talking about football. Like what we're going to do, what they're going to do. Just it's brilliant. I love it, and I kind of got the bug back again. Like, I didn't fall out of love with football. I love football. Football's my life, but like you said, there's a little bit of you that thinks, I'm done playing. Like, I don't enjoy it, or I'd rather pick and choose the times you play, but you can't do that. So the coaching, I absolutely love it, and it's something that for the last couple of years of my career, I really wanted to do, and it kind of been an agreement anyway. If I'd stayed abroad in Iceland, I was going to go into that sort of role anyway. So obviously moving back into England postponed it a little bit, but that's fine, and I'm there now anyway, and I love it, and grateful to Nathan for giving me Nathan and Bully really to give me the opportunity to experience the coaching and start my coaching career.
We'll come back to Whitby at the end, and we'll obviously talk about that game on Saturday. But for now, going right back to the start, Boro, you played for England at various age groups through the ranks. Your Boro debut came at West Ham on the last day of the 2008-9 season when Boro got relegated. That must have been a day of such mixed emotions.
Yeah, it was really, really mixed emotions. I mean, that season was strange, really, because we're kind of there was 2 or 3 of us kind of on the borderline of the squad reserves. There was always like your Josh Walkers, Reece Williams, myself, Joe Bennett. Been on the bench a few times, but not quite got on, made our debuts. And like you say, there'd been a couple of times where I was told I was playing and then I wouldn't play, so I was disappointed. But the West Ham game was just, I wasn't even in the initial squad. There's a little story behind it. We'd finished for the season, finished training on the Friday. First team had their game on the Saturday, and that was it. We broke up. So I'd finished ultimately for the season. So I flew home, and I thought, I'm going to go on the sunbed. So I went on the sunbed. I remember I come out of the sunbed, and I had like 8 missed calls off Martin Scott, the reserve manager, and I'm like, what's up with him? So I rang him back, and he went, get your ass back here now. You're travelling down to West Ham. Marlon King's pulled out injured. So I'm like, oh, right, brilliant. So I thought I'm on my oldest spot. So anyway, so I fly back to the training ground, jump on the bus, travel down to West Ham. I didn't think anything of it. I thought, I'll just be on the bench, won't get on. The game's going on. He makes 2 subs at half-time. He brings Josh Walker on and Joe Bennett. Both came on at half-time. And then at midway through the second half, he sends Reece Williams out to warm up. So I thought, he's coming on. That's me. Done. I'm not coming on. And then all of a sudden, he just turned around and went, Frank, see you coming on. So I was like, whoa. So there was like 10, 15 minutes left. So I didn't even have time to be nervous or anything like that. Just literally jumped her off on. Loved every minute of 10, 15 minutes, whatever it was. Loved every minute. Touched the ball once, and it was with my head. But brilliant. Absolutely loved it. And like you say, the club got relegated that day. So me as a Boro fan, same as yourself, used to follow them all over in Europe and all the cup competitions, and I could go to every game that I could. From a young boy, going with my dad and my mates. It was disappointing from that in that way, but for myself, it was like I should be really up here buzzing, but I was a little bit like I was buzzing, but my team just been relegated. But at the back of my mind, I was thinking I might get an opportunity next year. And I always tell this little bit, but Gareth Southgate, what a guy! Like he gave me my debut that day, and he's just been relegated as a manager, and his probably job's on the line. And at the bus, he comes to the back of the bus, sits next to me, and goes, "Did you enjoy that?" And then he's like, "Well," then he like kind of giggled. He's like, "Well, I understand." He said, "But that's where you want to be." He said, "You get your head down. The hard work starts for you now. Like that's your little taster. Your career is going to start now. So get your head down and work hard to get in the team." And I just thought for a manager that's just been relegated from the Premier League in his first job, for him to come back to me as a young lad at the back of the bus, I shouldn't even be in his thought process. I just thought it was brilliant, and I'll never forget that, to be honest.
And you touched on it there, and I'm glad you did, because I was going to ask it, and I didn't know if it was a daft question. But obviously, as a fan, you're devastated to go down. But is there a part of you thinking, well, actually, in the Championship, I might stand more chance of playing more games?
100%, yeah. I mean, it wasn't really I'd never thought about it weeks previous. I never thought, oh, if we go down, I'll get a chance. It was always, we were focused, because we were involved in the squad. We were kind of focused on getting the job done and be safe. It was a disappointing year for ourselves and Newcastle. I remember the year. It was the year that she went to. He took over the 8 games at Newcastle. Newcastle went down as well. So it was a strange sort of season.
And some of them were in the mix as well at the bottom, weren't they? All 3 were struggling that year, weren't they, if I remember right?
Yeah, everyone was struggling. I can't remember the other team that come down. I think it was West Brom. I might be wrong. It might be in West Brom. But it was, like you say, it's on the way home, I'm thinking, I'm kind of buzzing inside. I've made my debut here. I've been relegated. Big hitters are going to leave. I've got a good chance here. So I worked hard that summer and, thankfully got plenty of games that year. But like you say, yeah, it's in the back of your mind, definitely, as a young boy.
And I was going to say the year after, you played a lot of games. You scored, I think, was it 3 goals? Your first was it Donny away? What's that year like then? Is that the year when you kind of think, I've arrived now? I'm a Boro player now.
Yeah. Because before that, you're always looked at as a young boy, and even I was at 18, 19. Well, I am young really, but these days they're coming through a lot younger. But 18, 19, I was looked at as a young boy. And I think the next year, the squad, like you say, I think Tunjai stayed for a little bit, but then he left. But quite a lot of main players that they do go out the door, and the squad became a lot younger, a lot more local lads, or lads from England really, rather than bringing in foreigners and stuff. But no, I really enjoyed it. And it was good. It was good experience.
In that squad that went down then, because obviously, although you didn't make your debut until the last day of the season, you'll have been in and around it all year. Who in that squad were the ones who'd look after the younger lads, who'd put their arm around them, who'd make sure they were feeling all right and feeling part of it? Was there any of the more established senior pros who'd do that?
The wall, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone who wasn't really great. There was obviously players that kept themselves to themselves, but so who did we have that year? We had Tunjai, Mido, Alfonso. The crazy thing is if you're on a night out, all the senior players look after the young boys. Like, they always make sure that they've got enough money, blah, blah, blah. They're getting looked after. They're not getting harassed or whatever. They're always brilliant. In and around the changing rooms. I tell you that the best one for the young boys was Mendieta.
Right.
He was unbelievable. Like,
even at the time when he wasn't playing, was he? Because Southgate kind of wasn't him out.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think he was there that last year, but the previous years he was there, and he was brilliant. Like, he used to train with the reserves every day. His attitude was impeccable. Such a good professional. He played reserve games. He didn't play every single reserve game, but if he didn't play straight away, he was on the phone ringing one of the lads asking how we got on. He's such a great guy, and he was a good example to learn. I think he was 34, 35 at the time, but he's a brilliant, brilliant player, and his attitude was spot on, and kind of matched my type of vibe as well, because I was quite a good pro at the time, and quite busy, to be honest. And I loved watching him, thinking, well, he's 35, he's a multi-millionaire, he's not playing at Middlesbrough, he's away from home and stuff. I thought, it's unbelievable. But he was really, really good. But there was quite a lot of people who were good with the young guys. Like, even Stuart Downing, like, he'd been there, done that. He was good with the young lads. Gary ONeal, again, another one who's now, it's no surprise that he's managing.
Obviously, the championship season, Southgate goes, Strachan comes in. I know we've spoken about this previously. You're probably one of the few players in that squad, or the few on Teesside at the time, who I have a feeling is going to praise Strachan and tell me how much you enjoyed it when he was in charge.
Strachan, funny guy. Like, I think manager-wise, it wasn't great, and he'll probably admit that he made decisions that probably weren't right, but at the time he thought were right, and he'll stand by that. As a coach, I think no matter who you speak to, even if they didn't like the guy, his coaching sessions were brilliant, like really, really good. Don't get me wrong, sometimes they're a little bit long, especially a day before a game, but as far as like learning and enjoyment in training sessions, they were unbelievable sessions. Really, really loved training. with Gordon. And yeah, like you say, for me, I'm probably one of the only ones because he gave me plenty of opportunities. And I think from day one as well, I remember Colin Cooper pulling me saying after the first training session, he said, "Oh, Gaffer loves you. Like, you've made a really good impression on him there. Like, keep it going." And that kind of gave me that little bit of a buzz. And I always knew that he liked me. And he was horrible to me in training. He was on me every day. Like, he'd stop the session in front of everyone, and he wouldn't slate me. Just say, "You need why do that? Do this. Do it like this. Do it better." He was good. He was but with some players, like he didn't like Mark Yates, so he'd just pull Mark Yates in front of everyone and just say, "That's rubbish. It's rubbish." But with me, he'd be like, he'd more advise me, and the lads were brilliant. I remember Steve McManus, because I was playing against him in training. He just said, I was like, again, he's having a go at me again. And then, but Mick was like, "No, thanks. He wants you to do well. That's why he's talking to you now." He said, "Just listen to him because he's not having a pop. He's helping you here." And he was good with me like that. And he used to pull me and help me. So he was good with me. So I can't really say a bad word about the guy, but I would say management-wise, he probably got it slightly wrong, I think, looking back. But at the time, he did what he thought was right. And I mean, everyone's got their own opinions. Like, in my opinion, I probably would have gone and got the best 2 or 3 players from Scotland, whereas he went and got 10, 11. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's kind of like maybe he's one too many, but but I'll learn from that and I'll take that into my coaching career, management career. If I ever leave a football club and I want to bring the players, I'll probably only take the best 1 or 2, not the full team.
Did you stay in touch? Obviously, you talked there about how much he liked you, how much he rated you. Did you stay in touch with him at all then after he?
I spoke to him a couple of times afterwards, but I've not spoken to him for years. No, I bumped into him when I was up in Scotland, but that's about it. But like I say, great guy he was with me. He's a funny, witty guy, and I do feel sorry for him a little bit, like with the Middlesbrough thing, because he's going to get tarnished as not doing very well at the club, and he could only do it in Scotland and stuff like that, but. You know, that's not true. You've got to remember what he did before he went to Celtic. He's obviously done Southampton. I mean, the guy played in the Premier League when he was 40-year-old. Like, I remember one year he took us away halfway through the summer break, which again, probably bad management. Took the lads away to my what was it called? Where's the golf place?
Was that where there's the famous picture of Gary ONeal looking like a bronzed god and Barry Robson next to him, who looks like he's just desperate for any bit of sun. He looks like he needs to go with you on the. For 12 minutes.
Yeah, I can't remember where we went. Oh, La Manga. He took us to La Manga like halfway through our summer break, so that didn't go down well. But he was joining in the running and stuff, like the long distance running. I think he was 54 at the time, and he's got a false. He said he's got a false hip, and he's 54, and he was in front of half the players. That just sums the guy up. Like, his dedication and his professionalism was unbelievable, and he's a really, really funny guy. But like you say, I think some people took to him, some people didn't. But as far as a coach goes, he was outstanding, like one of the best. But I think just management-wise, it just wasn't right. But his intentions were there, and people are close to forget that he walked away and didn't take a penny. He could have just said, "Pay me up now," or wait until he got the sack. But he walked away and was like, "Just keep it." Like, and I think that's some Middlesbrough fans remember that, and I think that's good.
Before we move on to Mowbray and the Messi comment, which I'm sure you remember, when you're coming through the ranks, then who did you play with in the England ranks, and did you see yourself as a centre forward or a winger, or kind of maybe more of like what would be deemed a forward now, but it was perhaps a bit more structured back then? What was your best position back then, and who were you playing with?
Kind of a strange one, really, because all the way through growing up, going through the academy, I was always a striker who could play right wing. But then the longer my career went on, I was more going to the wing, which I didn't mind, because, to be honest with you, when I was a striker, going through the youth ranks, I'd scored goals, but I was never a 20-goal a season man. Like, I wasn't selfish enough. I'd always, if there was a chance there, I'd probably square it to someone rather than shoot. Like, that was just how I was. So I think I still don't know now which was my best position. I just think it depends on how the team plays, to be honest. But going to the England ranks, I played on the wing for England because they played a kind of 4-3-3 formation. I was always on either wing. And the team we had was... we had some really good players, lads. Henry Lansbury was in it. He's just recently retired, had a great career. Dan Gosling, who hasn't got a club at the moment, but he's still training at Watford, playing at a good level. He'll get somewhere, no problem. Dan Welbeck, Victor Moses, who was out of this world. Victor Moses when he wanted to be. I mean, Danny Welbeck was really, really good and a bit different to everyone else, but Victor was just... He just played like in third gear every game, and he was a joy to watch, to be honest. And nice lad as well. Danny Rose, who was a midfielder at the time, who obviously got converted to left back. Justin Hoyt's brother, Gav, played right back behind me. We had a good team. We had a good team. We had some good keepers. Jason Steele was in goal. Alex Smithies, who's played for Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Ben Amos, who's at Wigan, I think. So we had a really, really good squad. There's loads of names I've missed off there, but like because they were all in and out. But Drinkwater again, another one. We had a really, really good squad, and it was good to be around. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and a really good experience.
Mowbray comes in at Boro. When you're talking there about Strachan, in terms of kind of personalities, Mowbray and Strachan are complete opposites, really, aren't they? What was it like then? You were injured, weren't you? When Mowbray came in, you had or around the time Mowbray was there. Yeah. You had a fair few struggles with injuries, but then I do remember Mowbray making the comment of you look like Lionel Messi in training. So you'd clearly done something to catch his eye. What was it like around that time playing for Mowbray?
It was strange because going back, it was my back operation I was out with when he came in, and I remember my first back problem was when I was 17. But so at this point now I'm 20-year-old, and my back went in pre-season again, and I remember I went to see the manager, or me and the physio went to see the manager and Strachan at the time, and Strachan was like, "Look, don't worry, go get your back sorted." He said, "My son had a bad back," and he said he never got it sorted and he struggled. He said, "Go get the operation, blah blah blah." He said, "Don't worry, like you're going to be coming back into my squad, into my team type thing." He said, "So don't worry about anything else, just go get yourself sorted out." And it was literally halfway through my rehab when he resigned. And he kept me involved as well. He kept me involved with the squads and going to games and stuff. And he kind of resigned. So I was a bit gutted at the time because I was like, well, I'm injured now and there's going to be a new manager coming in. It doesn't look great. So Mowbray came in and I was still injured. I had another couple of months left on my rehab. So done my rehab. And I remember it was my first week. Was it my first week or first train? It might be in the first training session, I remember. And it was just one of them sessions where everything went right. Like I was buzzing to be back in. I had brand new bright yellow boots on, and he kept coming up. He said, "Made a goal, dust them boots on now." And I remember I was on Kevin Thompson's team now. Tomo, another one, struggled with injuries. What a player he was, and it was just like we took the piss basically. Like it was just goal after goal, setting goals up, taking people on. Class, and it was like that all week, and I was like, this is mint. This, like, I felt really good. And they had a game against Cardiff, I think, at home, and he was like, look, he said, I can't put you in the squad because you've only done like 3 days training. He's like, but keep that going. And he said, you'll be in. So I was buzzing, and obviously he came out with that comment and in the press conference, so it made me feel like $1 million, really.
$1 million.
And then, but then after that, it was a nightmare because him and Vino were like, we can't really involve in the first team until you play a reserve game. He was like, you need to do it properly. So I'd on the reserve game, they didn't play me. They did put me on the bench. I played 20 minutes of this reserve game. And then the next game was Norwich at home for Middlesbrough. And then I was in the squad. He put me on the bench and I came on for about half an hour at Norwich at home. So I'd only played 20 minutes. And Vino was laughing. He was like, Stevie Gerrard has to do 90 minutes for the reserve, 60 minutes. He said, Franksy, 20 minutes. That was it. So it was just like, it was all like surreal. It was all happening so fast. And I was like, wow. And I felt unbelievable after that Norwich game. I was like, I'm back now, like really buzzing. And then there was a reserve game that week. So I started that reserve game, and I should have really come off after like 60, 75. And I was like, fine. Literally like the 90th minute, just felt like my quad, just a little niggle. So that held me back like a couple of weeks, and it was like, oh, here come the niggles. Got a few niggles. Then I came back. Then I was back involved. Made a couple of appearances. Then the gaffer pulled me, and he was like, Bournemouth have been on the phone. So at the time, Bournemouth were League One. They were top of League One, and it was Sean O'Driscoll was the manager. And he said, no, he wasn't. Sorry, Sean O'Driscoll had left. He'd set the team up. I think Lee Bradbury was manager. We want to take you on loan. Do you want to go? Type thing. Said the top of the league, you'll do well. I was like, yeah, I'll go. So I was meant to go down on the Monday, fly down on the Monday. I trained on the Sunday because we'd had a game Saturday, and lads who didn't get on trained on Sunday. I'd done my ankle ligaments in training on the Sunday, so I was like, so that like knocked that up really. So I didn't even end up going there. And then I was out for like 2-3 months with that. And then it was about April time I came back from that. Then I made a couple of appearances even there. And then the season finished. So that was a frustrating year because I've gone from being a big part of the squad under Strachan, who managed me quite well, didn't play me every game, picked and chose the games to put me in. Probably to protect me as a young boy, telling me everything's fine, get my back sorted, to a new manager coming in when I'm injured, to impressing him, to then just getting setback after setback after setback, and it was just frustrating. So I just need to get my head down and get back into pre-season that year, really. And it was like the last year of my deal as well, so I needed a big year. And again, injuries and stuff just killed it. But that middle year under Mowbray was enjoyable but frustrating. You're right, yeah.
And that spell really must have been kind of the most decisive of your career in some ways, that season, because had you stayed fit then, playing for a manager who clearly rated you in like a playing style that had suited you, a team that was doing well at the time, you'd have I guess got a new long-term deal, and things could have turned out very, very differently for you.
100%, yeah. Like you said, in football, it's opinions, it's injuries. Obviously, if I do my bit, then I can't do any more. And that's what I was like. I'd make sure I did everything right. Everything else is out of my control. And like you say, for me, it was at that stage of my career, it was for that 2 years really was just injury after injury, a little niggle, a bad injury, and it was a nightmare really. And I struggled with it, but like you say, it was a bit up and down, and it could have been, if I didn't get the niggles, I didn't get the injuries, if I took my chance under Mowbray, then things would have been different. But like you say, it was difficult to get that opportunity, and it was frustrating. I think kind of like the next year was, he brought players in, and then I was trying to break in, injuries again. But like you say, it could have been very, very different. And that last year, I always... my last year, so I'd come back in pre-season, and I remember me and Andy Halliday had a really good pre-season. I was like, right, I'm going to be involved here. And the first game of the season, we weren't involved. And then after a few games, he pulled us and said, look, you can go on loan. And I was absolutely gutted with that because I'd worked hard over pre-season. I thought I'd like merited a place in the squad, and it was difficult to take for that. So, like you say, I did go on loan to Oxford, and that was when I had another injury after 2 days.
When you did leave, then it was to Pools, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What's that like then as a Boro fan? You've kind of lived your boyhood dream of playing for the club you support and love. What's it like making that decision and admitting to yourself that maybe you do have to go? That your time at the club's up.
It's difficult. I kind of knew. I mean, going back to that summer before I went on loan, I had a meeting with Mowbray, and we'd played Doncaster on the last game of the season. Now, Sean O'Driscoll was the manager of Doncaster. So Sean O'Driscoll wanted to sign me, basically, at Doncaster. And Mowbray's basically pulled me and said, Doncaster want to sign you. They were going to pay, would have been fine. The championship still. For me, financially, it would have been a big lift. But Mulberry was kind of like, look, I do like you and I want you to come and get into my team type thing. And me as a Boro boy at the time was like, oh yeah, well, brilliant. I've got another year left. Yeah, fine. And then that's when, like you say, injuries. And I was kind of like, looking back now, I was naive. I should have maybe turned around and said, right, well, if you want to keep me here, give me a new deal type thing. But as a 20-year-old lad, I'm not thinking money financially long term. I'm thinking I just want to play for my team that I support. If I've got a chance to do that, I'm going to do that. So again, things could have been different for my Middlesbrough career, but things could have been a lot different in my full career because could have got to Doncaster in the Championship under Sean O'Driscoll, who was a total football man, another football coach. So I was a bit disappointed. So that's why I was so gutted when the gaffer said you can go on loan, because I was a bit like, I could have left in the summer. I could have sorted myself out like long term, but it is what it is. It's all time and it's hindsight. It's brilliant. And then going on, I went on loan to Yeovil, remember, before the end of the season, and from February to the end of the season, and that little block under Gary Johnson, I've got the bug back again for football. Kind of like I was a bit down in the dumps because I knew my time was up at Boro and I probably wouldn't get another opportunity. 21-year-old now, and I'm thinking, but Yeovil, like Gary Johnson, I loved every minute of it, and I probably played some of the best football in my career there. But like you say, I went to Pools, decided to go to Pools in the summer, who were League One at the time, so it was a league down, but I was still living at home. And it was Neil Cooper who was the manager there, and again, great guy, and made you feel $1 million, and that's the main reason why I signed.
Just before we talk Pools, then, who was the best player you played with at Boro?
Mendieta, 100%, like unbelievable player. Like he was class. Like just stuff he did. Like you just think, how's he done that? Like you ask for the ball, he'll give you it. You're on the ball, he's always available. His attitude, he was brilliant. Really, really good player. Yeah, and like you say, I learned a lot from him just by watching him train. Such a brilliant player.
And obviously you go to Pools, you stay at home, you're still what, only 24, 25?
No, I left, I was 22 when I went to Pools.
Right, sorry. So at that stage, you're still obviously a young lad, but it didn't work out for Pools. Did they get relegated in your first year there?
So
which obviously, when you go to Pools, you're not expecting to be playing League Two football a year down the line. So how do you reflect on that spell?
Well, I loved it because it was Pools, and I love Pools, and again, like Pools and Middlesbrough, my two teams. Like, we've gone there League One. I think they just finished 10th, and the gaffer was like, "Look, we're not going to have a big goal," but he said we've got a good squad. He said, "I just need a winger, I need a centre forward, and I need a centre midfield player." Basically, he said that's all my budget's given me. He said I'd like a couple more, but that's all they're allowing me. So he brought me in. Steve Howard and Simon Walton. And pre-season was strange. We hardly did any running in pre-season. We were with at the university, and we did like loads of gym work. But I'd done loads of running anyway. I'd done loads of running with Walsey that summer, so I was fit. It was fine for me. But some of the lads were just like not really fit. They were just gym fit, training fit. Didn't do any running or anything like that. But we had a really, really good squad for that level, and for whatever reason, we just got off to a terrible start. Like, I remember we drew the first game at home to Swindon, 0-0. But after that, like, it just was downhill. We just lost game after game after game. And then Neil Cooper, to be fair, was just like, I'm walking away, and he walked away. But then John Hughes came in from Scotland, and he made a few signings, and he was another one, absolutely loved me. Brought in Charlie Wyke. Steve Howard went on loan to Sheffield Wednesday, and we were playing some unbelievable stuff. Like, we went on two really good runs. We were down and out basically. I remember there was 16, 17 games left, and the gaffer was like, "We'll go win them all, and we'll stay up." I think like we won like 5 out of 7, and then won like 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6, and it was like, and in the end we just fell short. But as another, again, coach-wise, brilliant. He had us playing football. All he wanted us to do was play with a smile on our face, and he did that. And he kind of he had a team of workhorses, but he had lads who wanted to play, and he kind of knew who was who, and he looked after me, he looked after James Poole, and he looked after Charlie White, because he played kind of us three as the forward three, and he just was, the game plan was all around getting it around to us and stuff like that. And we had at the back Peter Hartley at the back, Sam Collins, Neil Austin, Sweeney was in and around the squad, Cy Walton under Neil Cooper was, he'll admit he struggled, but we all struggled. And then under Yogi, he was, you'd Cy thinking, Cy, how are you playing League One? You should be playing, where are you? Like, football-wise, he was brilliant when he wanted to be, but I enjoyed it. Even though we got relegated, I enjoyed it. And then John Hughes left in that summer, and that's when Coops came in. But like you say, from going from Championship teams wanting to sign you to going to League One thinking, like, well, I'll be at League One and we'll have a little go at playoffs and see what happens and try to get a move. Because, like you say, the Oval move went really well and there was options for me to go to other clubs, but I went to Pools because Neil Cooper basically sold me it. And to then be playing League Two a year later, you're a bit like, how's this happened? But you're under contract and you just get your head down and do what you've got to do at Pools, yeah.
I know we're fast forwarding a couple of years here, but you end up in Iceland. How on earth did that come about? And not just the football. What's that like as an experience going over there?
So Iceland obviously was a few years later. Like you say, Iceland came out of nowhere. I'd just finished my time at Wrexham.
And just quickly on Wrexham. I mean, I bet you're imagining now, looking back, that it was a few years later you ended up there, and not back then, because it's mad, isn't it? What's happening there?
Complete change. I mean, it's a great club. It really is great. It was fan owned when I was there, but they've got a big fan base. Even though that's the stand behind the goal was you weren't allowed there, they've still got 7,000-8,000 and a really, really nice club, close knit community, lovely fans, lovely town, great people, and I'm pleased for them. I'm really, really pleased for them. And I know people who from the outside will call them Hollywood FC and all that, but I think they deserve it. Like, it's a great club, and it was in the wrong league, and they're there for a reason. Don't get me wrong, but the fans have kept it going because like you say, they owned it, and they've got lucky with the takeover, and fair play to them. I loved it at Wrexham. Absolutely loved it. I was only there for a few months, 6 months at the end of the season, but a really good club, and like you say, I'm pleased for them now. Yeah.
And yeah, sorry. Then it was to Iceland.
Yeah, then it was Iceland after Wrexham. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, just tell me about that as an experience.
Iceland was brilliant. I absolutely loved it. For me, with the family, like the kids, a different life, complete different life. Like, if I didn't have the kids, I could have stayed there forever, no problem. Obviously, I need to get them back really with education and stuff, but it was unbelievable lifestyle, just so relaxed. The local people, there's never no traffic, no one's rushing around everyone's just with a smile on their face every day. If they've got a job to do, they do it properly, and then they enjoy themselves after that. Children just play out. You don't know where they are, but they're playing out and they're safe. I remember my eldest daughter was 5 and 6, and she was just out playing. She'd come home from nursery, go out playing. Well, I didn't know where she was. But if she was at a friend's house, the man would say, just let you know Bella's here, vice versa. But if they weren't at the house, you knew they were safe. And it was surreal, like, hard to get used to, but the kids loved it. Like, she self-taught herself how to ride a bike. Everything, just do it. And then the kids out there, they play out no matter what the weather is. The only time the kids are not playing out is when the police drive round and say, it's too windy, get yourself home. In the winter, whether it's snowing, they're out playing football on the Astro in the snow, in the snowsuits. If it's boiling hot, they're out. It's brilliant.
And what's the football like?
The football, like, I'm going to compare it to Scotland because it's the same league. Like, there's 12 teams, 14 teams. You've got 2 or 3 teams that are like your Celtic and your Rangers, who are very, very good. And then you've got like a little group of teams like your Hearts, your Hibs, your Aberdeens. You've got 3 or 4 teams that are like a little bit better than the average group. And then you've got the average group. And then you always have like one shit team every year that's just a shit. But but like same with Scotland. Someone in the Premier League always has a stinker one year. Used to always be Hamilton, but then they'd always stay up and you're like... but not very similar to Scotland as in the standard of the teams. You've got really good middle batch, bottom batch. But yeah, really, really good. Really enjoyed it. Completely different because the season was April to October. So it was different to get your head around that because that's not their summer, but their warmer season. So yeah, brilliant. Really, really enjoyed it and made some good friends out there. The people are really lovely and just welcome you in. And like you say, Gary Martin went out there 19 and he's still there now. He's 33. He loves it out there and like you say, he's got another year there, so he'll go back out there.
And bringing it forward to now then, and Whitby and this weekend away to Bristol Rovers. We talked about this just before we started. Joey Barton was sacked recently as manager. There must have been a part of you that's a bit disappointed, I think, because I mean, I know maybe it's just because of the name and what he achieved as a player, but would you have liked to have gone head to head with him on the dugout and kind of seen how he operates down there as manager?
Yeah, it would have been good. Obviously, Joey Barton, everyone knows him. He's a bit of a character and stuff like that. But the things I've heard about Joey just within the football community is he's dedicated. He's a dedicated boy, and he's one of them. I think you either take to him or you don't take to him. And it would have been interesting to see what he was like management style. I played against him a couple of times. I think once in the league and once in the reserve game, and he was no bother on the pitch. Like, nobody probably wound him up that day, but I do kind of like his attitude. Is like he's a winner, so it would have been good. It would have been interesting, really interesting. I think he's calmed down a lot. Like you say, it's a cup game, anything can happen. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed when he got the sack because, like I mentioned to you off air, we've got all this analysis on what they're like under Joey Barton. Only takes you so far, the analysis, but it gives you a little bit. And now he's gone, so it's kind of like how they're going to go about it. But yeah, it's football at the end of the day, and it's a ruthless business.
This must be Whitby's biggest game in a fair old while, is it?
I think so, yeah. I think 20, 30 years, something like that. It's a big occasion. I was speaking to Bully yesterday. I think they're on about taking 500 fans down, which for Whitby's unbelievable. I think away games usually you might get 30. Because as you know, Whitby's kind of like the catchment of Whitby's tiny. So for a club like Whitby's really good. I mean, home games we got. Did we get about 1,000, 1,100 at the FA Cup game, Chelmsford? But that's brilliant for Whitby. I think the average is like 500, 600. So we're going to be taking that away to Bristol Rovers. So it'd be a really good occasion, like you say. It's a little bit like a cup final. And hang on, the dog's just walked in. And the kids.
I was going to say, don't worry, it's all right because we're wrapping up now anyway. But
go on, get out. I'll just go on. Ollie, you shut that door.
It's fine, don't worry.
A little bit like cup final, like you say, we're all taking our kids down, all the coaching staff, backroom team, we're all taking our kids down Whitby strips. A little bit like cup final, and for the lads.
You're going to be busy after this.
For the lads, some lads have played. Like I know Hawksy was with me at Pools. He's played League One standard, League Two standard. Danny Rowe was in and around at Rotherham, being at Wickham. Off the top of my head,
I came to watch the Mass game earlier season. Brad Fuster, former Boro striker's there, isn't he?
Fuster's there, yeah. So there's lads who have played that sort of level and will understand it. And there's lads who have never been that level before. We've got young lads in the squad. I'll give you an example of Alfie Doe, who's just been released from Middlesbrough in the summer. He didn't get an opportunity. I think he'd done his cruciate twice at Middlesbrough in his 3 years there. So he's a really good player, and he's got potential to go play that sort of level. And I think with the cup games like this, anything can happen. That's why everybody loves the FA Cup. And between me, Batesy and Nath, the good thing about us three is like it's a class management group, like with 3 completely different characters. And we all just bounce off each other. None of us are yes men. We have disagreements daily. Ultimately, Nathan makes the decisions, and once he's made his decision, we back him all the way. We just give him our opinions, and he listens to us. Sometimes takes our opinion or my opinion, Bates's. Sometimes he doesn't. But it's perfect. Like, the 3 of us work really, really well, and we've all had experience. Like, we all know Bates's with his injuries, but playing wise, Europe competitions, FA Cup runs. He'd been there and done that with Middlesbrough. Myself.
I was going to say that. Sorry, just to put in again. I was going to mention Matty Bates, who's obviously there with you. You touched on the injuries there. He was some player, wasn't he? Had it not been for those injuries, he was some talent.
Some player, Bates he was, yeah. I always tell everyone this, right? Because his last year at Middlesbrough, he'd already done his cruciate 4 times. I think he'd done 3 on one on the other. So he'd done 4, and he's back playing, Middlesbrough captain, playing every week. Middlesbrough have offered him a new deal. He's got Swansea in the Premier League wanting to sign him. He's got Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Premier League wanting to sign him after 4 cruciates. And then he ultimately in the April, he'd done his cruciate again his 5th time, and that kind of killed him off.
Brutal.
Never really recovered from that. But after 4 cruciates, you've got Premier League teams wanting to pay money for you. I mean, that tells you that you're some player. And Beatty was a brilliant player. Just so unlucky with his injuries, and it's killed him, because he could have been top player. If a Premier League team's wanting to bid a couple of million for you after 4 cruciates, you've had no cruciates. You're going top level. Don't care what anyone says, and he's brilliant. And he's been brilliant for Whitby, outstanding for the defenders, because his knowledge of defending and stuff like that is brilliant. And like you say, he's had experiences in the cup competitions. I've had experience. I've had good experiences, bad experience in the cup. Scotland, we obviously won the Scottish Cup at Ross County, beating Celtic and stuff like that on the run. But then I've had the things where at Hartlepool where we get beat off Blythe on the telly. Beatty was there with me. So we've both been the big teams, getting beat off the little teams, both being the underdogs, beating big teams. We've just got to give that to the lads. And I watched just a little thing before. I watched the Wrexham documentary at the moment, and they went on the cup run last year, didn't they? They ended up going out to Sheffield United in the end, but they beat Coventry along the way, took Sheffield United to a run. And what Parkinson's saying to them is, believe in yourselves, you are a good team, but you've got to use your brain, you've got to work harder than you've ever worked before, because if they're going to beat you, you've got to let them know that they haven't beat you easily. You've had to give them a good game for them to beat you. And I think that we've got to do that at Bristol Rovers. We're obviously going to have a game plan and stuff like that, but the lads are going to have to work harder than they've ever worked before. And you never know, if they get a bit of lady luck on the day, then that's what it'll be. But if they are going to beat us, then we're going to leave there, and they're going to be thinking they've given us a good game today. We got a bit lucky or whatever. We've got to put it on them.
Brilliant. Well, best of luck. I'm at Plymouth Saturday, another long trip. But I'll obviously be keeping an eye on how things are going there. Thanks again for your time. Really, really appreciate it. We'll keep in touch, and obviously hope to get you back on again at some point. As I mentioned at the start, we will be back at the end of the week for a normal episode, looking ahead to Boro's trip to Plymouth and back on the win at Exeter. If you're watching on YouTube, as we always say, please subscribe, leave any comments you want us to discuss, and please rate and review and follow on the podcast channels as well. But thanks so much again for your time, mate. Really appreciate that, and enjoy it, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and thank you. Have a good trip.
Brilliant. Cheers, and you. Take care.
Good, mate.